how technology became the new battlefield. In 1969, the United States launched a small network of computers called ARPANET. It connected 4 universities. Nobody called it a weapon. Nobody called it a battlefield. Nobody imagined it would one day decide the fate of nations. But here we are. The year is now. And the most fiercely contested space on the planet is not a desert in the Middle East, not the South China Sea, not even the Arctic. It is the invisible world of technology, of microchips, undersea cables, artificial intelligence, and satellite networks orbiting silently above your head right now. Whoever controls this world controls everything else. Welcome. Today, we are going to pull back the curtain on one of the most important, least understood stories of our time. How technology stopped being a tool of civilization and became the defining weapon of it. This is the new geopolitics, and it is happening whether you are watching or not. For most of human history, power was measured in land. How much you controlled, how many soldiers you could field, how many resources you could extract. The battlefield was physical. You could see it. You could draw lines on a map. Then came the industrial age. Power shifted to factories, railways, and oil. The nation that could produce the most steel, burn the most fuel, move the most soldiers the fastest, that nation dominated. The 20th century brought nuclear deterrence into the equation. Mutually assured destruction meant that full-scale war between great powers became almost unthinkable. The Cold War was fought not with bombs, but with ideology, espionage, and technology races. Think Sputnik. Think the moon landing. Think the arms race. But something shifted at the turn of the 21st century. Something quiet. Something most people missed. The internet connected the world. Semiconductors became the foundation of everything. Your phone, your car, your banking system, your military targeting software. Satellites became the nervous system of global commerce. And artificial intelligence began to think. Slowly at first, and then very, very fast. Suddenly, the most powerful nation was not necessarily the one with the most tanks. It was the one with the best algorithms, the most advanced chips, the most sophisticated cyber capabilities, the most data. The battlefield had moved, and most of the world had not noticed. Let us start with the one technology that underlies everything else: the semiconductor, the microchip. A modern semiconductor chip contains billions of transistors, each one smaller than a coronavirus particle. These chips power smartphones, fighter jets, artificial intelligence systems, nuclear command infrastructure, and financial markets. Without them, modern civilization as we know it simply stops. And here is where geopolitics gets brutally fascinating. The most advanced chips in the world are designed primarily by one American company, NVIDIA, and manufactured almost exclusively in one place.
Taiwan. Specifically by a company called TSMC, the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. TSMC produces roughly 90% of the world's most advanced chips. Now look at a map. Taiwan sits less than 200 kilometers from mainland China. China claims Taiwan as its own territory, and China, for decades, has been building one of the most powerful militaries in history. Do you see the problem? If China were ever to take control of Taiwan, or even seriously disrupt TSMC's operations, it would hold the global economy hostage. Every tech company on Earth, every military that depends on advanced chips, every hospital using AI diagnostics, every self-driving vehicle would feel it immediately. This is why the United States passed the CHIPS and Science Act in 2022, pledging billions of dollars to build domestic semiconductor manufacturing. This is why the European Union launched its own CHIPS Act. This is why China has spent hundreds of billions attempting, and so far struggling, to develop its own advanced chip industry. The global competition for semiconductor supremacy is not a trade dispute. It is a civilizational arms race. And it is being waged right now in boardrooms, government ministries, and research laboratories around the world. If semiconductors are the muscle of the new battlefield, artificial intelligence is the brain. In 2017, Vladimir Putin made a statement that ricocheted through every defense ministry, intelligence agency, and technology boardroom on the planet. He said, "Whoever becomes the leader in artificial intelligence will become the ruler of the world."
That was not hyperbole. That was strategy. Consider what artificial intelligence can do in a military context. It can analyze satellite imagery faster than any human analyst, detecting troop movements, infrastructure changes, or weapons programs in real time. It can conduct cyber attacks at machine speed, exploiting vulnerabilities before any human defender can respond. It can power autonomous weapons systems, drones that find, track, and engage targets without a human pulling a trigger. It can also do something perhaps even more powerful. It can predict patterns in economic data, communications traffic, social behavior, financial markets. AI can find signals in the noise that human intelligence officers would miss entirely. The United States, China, Russia, the United Kingdom, Israel, and South Korea are all investing heavily in military AI. But the competition is not equal. The United States and China have emerged as the two dominant powers, and the gap between them and everyone else is widening. China has a significant advantage in one critical area: data. With 1.4 billion people operating within a system that faces far fewer privacy restrictions than Western democracies, China can train AI systems on data sets of staggering scale. Facial recognition, social media behavior, consumer patterns, medical records. The United States counters with innovation, deeper research ecosystems, more flexible capital markets, and the world's concentration of AI talent. Both nations understand the stakes. Whichever country achieves artificial general intelligence first, the kind of AI that can reason, adapt, and operate across domains, as well as, or better than, any human, that country will possess a strategic advantage that no amount of conventional military spending can offset.
That is not science fiction. That is the current trajectory of the technology, and both Washington and Beijing know it. Here is something most people do not fully appreciate. The world is already at war. Not in the way we imagine war, with explosions and uniformed soldiers and clear declarations of hostility, but it is war nonetheless. Cyber attacks on critical infrastructure, government systems, financial institutions, and communications networks happen every single day. Most of them are never reported. Many of them are never even detected. In 2010, a cyber weapon known as Stuxnet, widely believed to have been developed jointly by the United States and Israel, physically destroyed centrifuges inside Iran's nuclear program. It crossed a line that had never been crossed before, code that causes real-world physical destruction. A software weapon that did what a missile strike would have done without a single bomb dropping. That changed everything. In 2020, hackers, later attributed to Russian intelligence, infiltrated the systems of a software company called SolarWinds. Through that single breach, they gained access to thousands of organizations, including major branches of the United States government. The operation lasted for months before it was discovered. In 2021, a cyber attack shut down the Colonial Pipeline, the largest fuel pipeline in the United States, triggering fuel shortages across the eastern seaboard and costing millions of dollars in ransom payments. The attackers were a criminal group with ties to Russia. These are not isolated incidents. They are the opening salvos of a new kind of conflict, one without front lines, without rules of engagement, and often without attribution. Nations are building cyber commands alongside conventional military branches. Offensive cyber capabilities, the ability to go into an adversary's systems and disrupt, surveil, or destroy, are now considered as strategically vital as nuclear deterrence was in the 20th century. And unlike nuclear weapons, which are expensive to build and difficult to hide, cyber weapons are cheap, scalable, and almost impossible to trace. The invisible war is not coming. It is already here. There is a phrase that became fashionable a few years ago. Data is the new oil. It is a useful metaphor, but it undersells the reality. Oil powers machines. Data powers decisions. And in a world where decisions are increasingly made by algorithms, in finance, in healthcare, in law enforcement, in military targeting, the nation that controls the best data controls the future. This is why the debate over TikTok is not just about a social media app. TikTok is owned by ByteDance, a Chinese company. It has over 1 billion users globally, including hundreds of millions in the United States and Europe. The concern among Western intelligence agencies is not just that TikTok might push propaganda. It is that it is harvesting behavioral data on a massive scale. Patterns of attention, susceptibility to certain types of content, psychological profiles of entire populations.
That kind of data, in the hands of a foreign government, is not just a privacy issue. It is a national security issue. Meanwhile, the undersea cables that carry 95% of the world's internet traffic have become strategic targets. These cables, thousands of miles of fiber optic lines running across ocean floors, carry financial transactions, military communications, intelligence data, and ordinary internet traffic all at once. Cutting them or tapping into them is one of the most powerful moves available on the technology battlefield. Russia has been observed operating submarines near critical cable infrastructure. China has invested heavily in laying new cables, often through routes that give it potential access to strategic choke points. The ocean floor, it turns out, is also a battlefield. There is one more frontier that cannot be ignored: space. The satellites orbiting the Earth right now are not just for GPS navigation and weather forecasting. They are the backbone of global military communications, missile early warning systems, intelligence collection, and financial transaction timing. The GPS system, operated by the United States military, enables precision-guided weapons to hit targets within meters. It synchronizes banking systems across continents. It guides ships and aircraft and delivery trucks. Disable GPS, and you have not just inconvenienced someone, you have blinded an entire military infrastructure. China and Russia both understand this. Both countries have developed and tested anti-satellite weapons, missiles capable of destroying satellites in orbit. In 2021, Russia destroyed one of its own satellites in a test, deliberately creating a debris field that threatened the International Space Station and every other satellite in that orbital band. The message was unmistakable: we can reach your satellites. Meanwhile, a new generation of private space companies, SpaceX, Amazon, OneWeb, are deploying thousands of small satellites to provide global broadband internet. SpaceX's Starlink network has already proven its military value. It was used by Ukrainian forces to maintain communications during the Russian invasion, even as traditional infrastructure was destroyed. The commercialization of space has created a new and complicated dynamic, where private technology companies have become significant actors in geopolitical conflicts, providing capabilities that were once the exclusive domain of nation-states. Space, once the domain of superpowers and dreams, is now one of the most contested strategic environments on Earth. Here is the grand strategic picture that all of this adds up to. For the last 4 decades, the world operated on an assumption of technological globalization. The idea that technology, like trade, would flow freely across borders, that a chip designed in California, manufactured in Taiwan, assembled in China, and shipped to Germany was simply the most efficient way to produce prosperity for everyone. That assumption is crumbling. The United States has imposed sweeping restrictions on the export of advanced chips and chip-making equipment to China. China has responded by accelerating its push for self-sufficiency in technology. Europe is building its own semiconductor capacity. India is investing heavily in domestic technology infrastructure. The world is fracturing, slowly but unmistakably, into competing technology ecosystems. Call it technological decoupling. Call it a new Cold War. Call it the rise of tech nationalism. Whatever you call it, the implication is the same. The single, unified global technology stack that powered 30 years of economic growth is breaking apart, and with it, the rules that governed it. We are moving toward a world with 2 or more competing internets. 2 sets of AI standards, 2 chip supply chains, 2 visions of what technology is for, one that prioritizes individual freedom and open markets, and one that prioritizes state control and national strength. This is not just a technology story. It is a story about what kind of world we are building. You might be wondering, what does any of this have to do with me? The answer is everything. The technology in your pocket was made possible by a global supply chain that is now being deliberately dismantled. The apps you use every day are vectors in an information war. The satellites you rely on for navigation, weather, and connectivity are increasingly at risk. The AI systems that are beginning to make decisions about your credit, your healthcare, and your career are being shaped by geopolitical competition between nations. The prices you pay for electronics, for energy, for food will be influenced by whether the world succeeds or fails in managing this technological rivalry without catastrophic conflict. And perhaps most importantly, the kind of internet you have access to, the kind of information ecosystem you inhabit, will increasingly depend on where you live and which technological bloc your nation belongs to. The battlefield is not somewhere far away. In many ways, it runs right through the device you are using to watch this video. Technology was supposed to unite us, and in many ways, it has. But it has also handed the oldest human instinct, the desire for power, for dominance, for security, a set of tools more potent than anything in history. The question now is not whether this new battlefield exists. It clearly does. The question is whether humanity has the wisdom to navigate it, to harness the extraordinary potential of these technologies without unleashing their most destructive possibilities. That answer will not be found in server rooms or government bunkers. It will be found in an educated, engaged, and thoughtful public. People who understand what is at stake and who demand that the decisions shaping their world are made wisely. That is why you are here. That is why this conversation matters. If this video opened your eyes to something new, share it. Subscribe for more deep dives into the forces reshaping our world, and leave a comment, because in this new battlefield, an informed citizen is more powerful than you might think. This has been the story of how technology became the new battlefield for global power.